Choto, the mola, doctor. Don't much inchira, moranto.
Just English.
Same yesterday. Porque tenga su siempre.
Yeah. I know, I find it. But this started. So in the yellow book, page 2. No, sorry. Okay. So opening first.
Oh, no. You did it already. Only this.
Okay, sorry. Page 4 in the yellow book. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Page 5. May all mother sentient beings, limitless of space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless of space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless of space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. The Mandala offering, page 7. An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents, the wealth of an infinite ocean of realms. If I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold them with compassion, all the beings they contain. My body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping. Completely liberated from the bonds of real and unreal, transcending the names and attributes of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial. The Supreme Mandala is the natural state. When I offer it, bless me to attain the state of Buddhahood. Om Guru Deva Dakini Ratna Mandala Pratitsa Soha. Page 9. Namo. To the Guru, the utter purity of all appearance and existence, I offer all appearances and existence arisen from the primordial ground. I supplicate you, may the 3 realms be completely liberated. Please grant blessings to empty samsara from its depths. Lord, with 5 omniscient wisdom, crown, ornament, kind one with loving nature, precious protector of beings, heart of all Buddhas, inexpressible by word or thought, I supplicate you from the core of my mind. Bless me from within the state of Dharmata. Bless me to realize this mind primordially pure and unborn as the unfathomable Dharmakaya. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
오야, 되니 남바 참아라. 정말 잠들 다시 들으시고요. Good afternoon.
So to all of my Dharma friends, I want to wish you, to everyone here, I want to wish you first Tashi Delik and good afternoon.
되니 때랑가 졸라 산기를 약보시오지 해야요스.
Oh, there's really good news that I have to share with you today.
가정가 저 드르나보데 나고 라스스.
We actually found a black snake yesterday.
Anila nagomulam tangsha.
Anila had a dream of a black snake.
Zemoyin ngachu kartsang zhiwaga nangla dur nakbu de korang yorewe sewasi yonk yore. Zitang ge zhiwa de ngi samlo tang be nangyak chimbo ren tu.
So yesterday we had a question about, is there actually a snake? And I think that's a really key question. I thought about it for quite a while.
Zitang ge ngachu ge yong di ge togni samlo tang na be dang beijing ge togni ro tang jina dur de yore mari sewa de kap ge joshan ro mari. Yena yang ngachu la dur ge ko ti yaung de rangjing ge dur korang yore mari we samlo korya de ngarang chogo bakchak ka top giris. De nangyak chimbo siris. De drwa chimbo siris.
So in general, in this text, the metaphor and what the metaphor is pointing to, in terms of what this text covers, it never addresses that question. But I think that for us reading this, we naturally go to that question. And that is indicating the power of our habitual imprints, our imprinting. And so for that reason, it's actually a very important question.
제장가주 가장 지당 고니 롱좀바게 줄 낙부 죽년 춘앙다 나와나 손이 죽년랑 별라자가 요리때 나추 랑진기 주랑 셈라 샤르니 타나 말미야 땅자가 요리 띵아초라 우니가 띵아초가 빡착간 남바싱 총그 요리스 때 약속도 돈다 말이스 약모도 돈다 말이스.
So from at the very beginning of the text, Rongsom says that we shall first cite the example, which is the appearance of the reflection of a black snake in water. So he's talking about the reflection of a black snake in water. But all of us, or most of us, immediately go to this idea of a real snake. Such that we're even dreaming about snakes, right? So that is a question of our habitual imprinting. It's not a question of good or bad. It just is showing us what our imprints are.
나추 죽년 임버 히바데 리 라원다 통크레데 죽년 덴트리지 그 삼로지 나추 요비 잡중 잡록나 요비 덴지 ям바직데 나추라 니버드 요고 요레 데 메나 나추 로마데와지 용고 요레 데 나추 당선 그 박차레.
So again, it says reflection, and that's something that is easy for us to say, the word reflection. We're talking about a reflection of a snake. But in the back of our minds, the kind of backdrop for this conversation about the reflection of a snake, we really tend to be thinking about, a real snake. There's really something that we want to be pointing to. And if we don't have that, we feel uncomfortable, we feel unsettled. And that is the habitual imprinting of our self-grasping.
Then, the all at the song yore, Durji Napu Zunian Chunang the Naui Gavsus, the Zunian the Nangwatang, Zunian the Shimba, say, the Nietzsche Gores, then you got the Chiranso Semasam Roches.
So in a minute, or later on in the text, it tells us that when there is in the time when, or in the conditions when the reflection of a black snake appears in water, there's a distinction between the appearance and the clinging at the appearance. So there's these two parts to that experience. And there's a distinction between them, and I want you to please pay close attention to that distinction.
제장 나와데 심비 박작 참오식게 这张能话当先把这个能力，但怎么说该修的先能话吃个药的，人那样能话这样，他是药嘛的意思，他妈的了没把吃过个药的意思。
So again, we have clinging at appearances, and it is actually the appearances that are the subtlest of the habitual imprinting. So it's it's one thing to remove the clinging to appearances, but it's much more difficult to get rid of the appearances themselves, to clear that away. However, ultimately, even that will be cleared away.
这种我做吉人公比告诉呀，能人拉过吃个劲儿做，是呢。吉人公呀个，他讲一种些是呢，看当然，吉人个告诉讲下个，就做个帮下的干的是呢，能话当先把你个讲一切的吉人公可要的是，但是能人是话的吉人个告诉呀，大把用话个名词这个是。
那等会能先。
能话先把能先，你们 together shortcut。能先拉鼓，吃个劲儿做，拉当鼓。
吃个
劲儿做，做不全部做。第能了怕，第能了，但能话当先把人拉个吃松一段的了，做。
So for creation stage meditation, we say that appearances and clinging then are perfectly transformed into the deity. So what this means is that when we are performing creation stage, what are we trying to purify? What are we trying to abandon? It's the appearances and the clinging to them. That's what is being purified through creation stage meditation.
Oh yeah, Tantra Hindu just ki yang di nang la xian ba ji xia ke yo ba de zu de gang sa ge dang zhen zu song ke men du chu ji dang zhen dang chu ji dang me ge chou ni zu song ke du.
So now here when it's talking about the clinging, it actually doesn't address the self-clinging to the person, the self-grasping of persons. Rather, it has more to do with the self-grasping towards phenomena or towards small d dharmas, and then the elimination of that the self-grasping of phenomena.
Oh yeah. Then, chen number 2 刚sắc đặc mít xí ra thì cô mà nhung na Garchen xu ba ge rang ki so so ge rang ju ji phong wo nga la mi ni nga sam bi sam lo te gang sắc dang zhen res ta tab de won ro shi na.
So if you're not familiar with this term, the selflessness of persons or selflessness of individuals, it's really what we were talking about yesterday, where we said you look at your own mind stream, you look at yourself, and you see the 5 skandhas, you focus on those 5 skandhas, you identify those 5 skandhas as I, you name them I. That is the self-grasping of persons, or of personhood, maybe.
But things are catching here on the duck chimbo, duck chung was it the shaking to her. The Gangsaka duck race.
Nika. So these days, sometimes you also hear people talking about the big self and the little self, but in both cases, those are, grasping at the person.
Then Hindi chulu nang la yo be ducks or ngachimbo siva. They are Gangsaka duck race.
So, for example, in Hindu traditions, you hear about the Atman, that's like the great self, the great soul, but that is also the kind of self of personhood.
Yena yang Gangsaka duck la yang ni chia yo, lan ji ji duck kuntak dak sa niorwa.
Now, the self of persons comes in two forms. One is the innate or co-emergent self, and then one is an externally imputed self.
Ta kuntak dak sewate tendri loso dang jimsen ti chuluk jimsen ke soso go samlo go nang o tendri chi yosari samni mepala yopor yi chi chi jak pi ngate kansak dak dang ti ta wi dang zen te la kuntak dang zen la ko yores.
So in terms of something that is imputed, a self that is imputed, that's, through various different religious traditions or philosophical systems, they look at, they tell you, and they teach you that there is this thing called the self, and that this is why. They give you some reasons why, and it must, it seems like that it's there. And then basically they help you, they convince you to believe that there is something that there really isn't. You start to believe in something that doesn't really exist. So that's, the selfhood of persons. And that's how, that's what we would call imputed selfhood.
Ta lanchi chi dak sen na nga so tangbu jeong de rangsen ke nga nyambi samlo chi yore ti tang te ta wi nga nyambi te nga nyambi dangzen te ta dangzen re la ti kap se nga sam ti nga sam bi samlo gu bi yul mik san da gu yul te so so ko phong po chak de yor wa hote te ta wote gang sak ka dak ta dak dang dak chi ta tong iba yore ta ina nyok da cha tang na ko so ko ma ra kon ken ko re te ina yang kang ta yang ten res.
So then in terms of the innate or co-emergent self, this is, from the moment you're born, we have this sense of me or I, this kind of just natural feeling that about me or about I. That is our innate or innately emerging self-grasping. And so really, you can look at this as like these thoughts about the sense that there is an I. These thoughts then manifest in the form of the body and the 5 skandhas. So that is, how we can understand the co-emergent selfhood of persons. Now, there's actually quite a lot that we can say about personhood. It's very complicated, and so we just leave it at that for today.
Pernas, mambashi ka napashi hiachu zoni ta robachegona. Tambo nate kawantu kari tab koguntu kari chikoguntu dok ti kyonde kawantu te jacha jangusan gurwas. Pe te na yin nga so dakmit la ya te ngutsu gona tambo nga so namjing ge kontak ka dak lanchi ge dak dangzen dang dak ti kanda chigre samya te te za samlu na menna dakmit la ya te kacham changro ji nyen kayores.
So, for example, if a doctor or a surgeon is going to treat an illness, is going to treat a patient, first the doctor needs to figure out what the illness actually is, right? You need a proper diagnosis, and then you need to know where in the body that illness is lodging or whatever. You need to really be 100% clear about the situation, or else the treatment or the surgery could go really wrong. And so the same thing here, if we're trying to learn something about selflessness, then, we start by saying, well, what is self-grasping? And there is, to some sense it's imputed, and then self-grasping can also be innate. And so if we don't start there, if we don't have a clear understanding of that, then our understanding of selflessness can go wrong.
아니 겐든 춤벨 야거라 페브리 콩키바 침보리 마부 하고그리 삼근덕스 콩기 처를 마스탁비 종라타 남파기 종라타 오디 참참마 벤저요레스 당상 한디다 벤나 사구르다 콩소고 가샤 년단 오다 즉 독신라고 시행도와 낭반라고 시행도와 만해양 동도와 그룹부지 시행도와 상한도 요레스 힌두다 낭 상한도 뺀라고 요레스 낭박 옛날이야 근데 춤퍼가 타마텔라 치 만자사 찍부데 닥옅 mit servisantum ti ganglan rogundu martokta yambate pe kalikapore sonsa.
So when Gendin Chöpel went to India, I think many of you might have heard of him. He's a very famous, like modern Tibetan scholar. When he went to India, he studied Indian religious traditions and compared them, with the Buddhist philosophical positions, very detailed, and he said that a lot of these non-Buddhist traditions sound really a lot like Buddhism. They share so much. So especially if you hear teachings like from Sadhguru and other teachers, sometimes you start to feel like you're hearing about Dzogchen. Sometimes they even recite Om Mani Padme Hung. They talk about Guru Rinpoche. There's a point where, there's, a range of Hindu traditions, but they share so much with secret mantra, Buddhist secret mantra. But what Gendin Chöpel said is at the end of the day, his assessment was that there's one single point that really is the dividing line. Is there a self or is there not a self? That's really what distinguishes Buddhism from these other traditions in India.
Then, but number two, samkare. 아디샤가 치와 나와 짬주 쳤송요르와 짬주그리와 삼그리 대양 다가랑르시 짭순 로사고 여른 타르뚝바데 추레스 추고 똑비 추당 롱구치 나니 똑비 추 타르뚝바데 다그메 돈이리와 오 데레스다 나서 짭순 로사 타르뚝대야 데르와.
So some of you might be thinking, but wait, I thought, Atisha told us that the difference between Buddhist and non-Buddhist traditions is refuge. Those who take refuge in the three jewels are Buddhists, and those who don't are not. That's the dividing line according to Atisha. But actually, this is the same answer as what Gendin Chöpel said, because when you take refuge in the three jewels, you're taking refuge in the Dharma. Ultimately, then the Dharma itself, there's the Dharma of realization and the Dharma of scriptural transmission. But ultimately, what we are taking refuge in, the ultimate Dharma, is the Dharma of selflessness and emptiness. So it's actually the same position.
다 사케판트타게 송리 잠속 다당 망거르히어 코르위자와 쪼니민 당메통 가르세 당메 다당 가르이나 당메통 힘탄트로 어때 데스니스 가르세나 잠발라서바 녀르지라서바 곰난다 당정 그 님부 문이된 로 말이스 당정 총르다 동거레 자원이 메바서 그 말이스 자원이 메바서 근데 당미지스 당미 그 당메 똑비 시럽데 당정 당 웅거리 비점선 게 메당 추당 연 가로인 비점선지 당메 똑나 예니 당정 bon 당전 빠나 고리 잡아 쪼그리 스니 낭파 그 따르가 잡아도 되리스
고나 롱데야 차
타키미도 잠발라서 파티 당전 당가르가 말이스 아니 당메 망거 장 코로가 잡아도 제타고 말이스 코로가 잡아 메바서 타고 말이스 당메 때 곰난 코리 잡아 메바서 타고 그래서 다 돈다 되리.
So there's a verse from Sakya Pandita where he says basically that you can meditate upon loving kindness and compassion, and that's really excellent. But you won't purify that alone. Loving kindness and compassion alone does not purify self-grasping. Does not cut through, does not uproot fundamentally self-grasping. And without fundamentally uprooting self-grasping, you won't uproot samsara. You won't be able to end the cycle of samsara. So it's really through selflessness, through cultivating, through understanding the lack of a self, realizing this with wisdom, that we are able to fundamentally uproot samsara.
Oh yeah. Tendra yenzang ta te tawi dangzan dang dangme te la gangsak ka dangme lap ko yore. Teni ti gang la chu ji dangme sirwa tere. Ta chu sirwa te si chu tamchi dangme bar tokba te la chu ji dangme lap ko yore. Shibja. Shibja ge chu tamchi. Shibar shawi chu.
Shija.
Shija. Tangi tari. So kamke din saro. Shija.
Lesser. So this is the selflessness of persons, right? But then there's also the selflessness of phenomena. So when we say phenomena, this is the word dharma, again with like a lowercase d. When we say dharma or phenomena, in this context, we're talking about dharmas that are knowables, objects of knowledge, things to be known.
Oh yeah. Ta ti nang wan de da tam chi yo me lab di ge ngu ni ni sam lo dang ko res. Ngu chi de nga chu ma tamar pa chi dang ge mi ge sam lo dang dang de. Ngu chi de tok pa thop bi kang sa sang ji dang chang sim sem ba nam ni lu ko wan de dang ni chi he go re ni he go res.
So now when we talk about that and these phenomena exist or don't exist, we have to look at it from two standpoints. One is from the perspective of ordinary beings like ourselves, how we can think about it. And then one is from the perspective of enlightened beings like the Buddhas who have realized the natural state. So there's two angles on this.
Ngi tari kacha te he de ngarang ngun zabzu jin he ge yo pe na nga chu tv log nyen de ni menton ni ta ya ji yo korea log nyen de ta ra gang ni mar nyok to da yo res na gang ge te so mata na ok te tro yo ma res ti nyen ri ro yo res te na gen ta ta he ya te so chang so sema ma sang da ok te so ya ko ma res.
So I'm really laying this out as carefully as I can. It's kind of like watching a Korean soap opera. Like, if you miss the earlier episode, you're not going to understand what happens later in the series. So I'm really, like, what I'm saying now is important for what I'm planning to say later. So please try to follow that.
Yeah. So
I really hope that you are able to listen, with good focus.
Oh yeah. 제가 당가 저거 추지 당선 그걸 그 이깁제 거래. 다디 건습도 요바 어때라다 건습 탈니니 요래서 가상 휘차래서 건습도 뎀바당 돈덤 뎀바라고 요래. 롱좀 빈디나라 건습도 요바당 돈담버 요바 송근도가 어떤 닥치그리스.
Okay, so now when we come to the discussion of the self-grasping, phenomenal self-grasping, the self-grasping at phenomena, then again we have the conventional truth and then the ultimate truth. So yesterday we said there are two truths, and we saw that where we left off yesterday, Rongsom said, a certain position, these exist conventionally and they exist ultimately. So there's kind of two levels of existence.
Oh yeah. Teni ta te tawi concept dang tondom se wa ta yang kangsak chigla tu ni samlo dang go gre kangsak chigla tu go re karisena pen na nyang tu nam ji lam gom ni drachom bi topic kaps to ton dam ber zik di ore ta di kap de la di ni kap de la ton dam ba ni kap re nga chu ka ya machine bi de yo ba de zo concept de yo ba re nga chu la tu ni yo ba de concept de yo ba re de kangsak ni la de ni he ko.
So when it says conventional or ultimate, this depends on the specific individual being discussed at a certain moment. So in the case of the Shravakas or the hearers, when that Shravaka or hearer practices the path and then is attaining arhatship, right? So when someone has reached the state of an arhat, what they are perceiving is ultimate reality. That's what ultimate reality means in this context, is what is perceived by an arhat. Whereas conventional refers to what is perceived by people like us who are, just ordinary people.
Oh yeah. Ta dikapse dak tang kanzak dak tang dangzan ti kanzop ta yo la ton number yo tendi labndu was je zang nyantu namji jang kanzak dak tang dangzan me ta dak me ber to ni dangzan pang yo res. Yena yang di na la dungur je ni se ni dungur dang ti je te so ta yore song yores ngu po yore se.
So here, for the Shravakas, it says that they have realized the selflessness of the individual, but the selfhood of phenomena continues to exist both conventionally and ultimately. So what that means is that they have abandoned grasping at the self of persons. However, the phenomena continue to exist, and that's why it says in the text that both suffering and the location of suffering, which we defined as the causes of suffering, both suffering and the causes of suffering continue to exist.
Tendra yindu kantaria dungmaria zis tropare zis tropa segor dembr tropa segor yena takpare la kuyomar ya te tarni de zope kagachi gor nga zope seta di zope riri nikali jawyorwa zis tropare dembr tropare yena takpa mare.
So in here it's telling us that suffering is materially existent. It has a material reality. It has an inherent reality. However, it is not permanent. So these these key terms are. You have to be so precise with your language. When we study this, we have to work through each specific vocab term. It's a lot. But so, in other words, so here it's saying that suffering has a material reality, a material basis, maybe.
Tani yanga rewa chiyo pena nani ngi tata tep chik ta nga chu tokbo chi ge chi tep pe yak bon thong song ngi khong la rongzom nya chang na twa ti len ya chi tep te ya yo bi jemchen ka re che tong ta khorang gi ni chul ma bo chi la dom jam ni den ri re lam man du ni chul ma bo chi ge thong la tok pa la ni den ri ni chul ndu lam ni xie du nga chu sam lo ta ya ma bo pan tok kon du 딩이 때때 약본도 삼성 때나가지는 아주 대랑 니가서 특정이 마부 배쳤다거나 창만 납성 고추고 말이 옛날에 오 딘디 정도와 쌈니 되니 쌈롱 코나 갈래갈래지니 혈랑 럽종 제야라 람카시랑 그랬어. 아니 수수판 똑을 말도 니마 찍으라 창만 신로야 쓰이게요 말와.
So I have another wish for all of you, which is that I read a book last year that was written by a friend of mine, and I just thought it was really wonderful, so much so that I invited him onto my Rongzom YouTube channel for a discussion. And what it was that I really liked about his book was that he talked about many different topics, but he didn't ever he didn't always come down to a definitive answer on any given question. He left a lot of questions open, kind of explaining explaining where there are still questions, where there are still points that need to be considered. And so what that did what that does in the book is it really opens up a lot of space for questioning and contemplation for the readers. And so we won't always understand things right away. And so there's a lot of technical things in this text that, most of us will not understand right away. And so if you feel that you don't understand it, that's actually an opportunity for you to reflect on it. It actually it shows you, it opens up a new path in your own studies. And so, this isn't something that you can get your head around in one day. And so I really hope that all of you, take this as an opportunity. If you don't understand, take it as an opportunity to continue, thinking about it.
Yeah. Dan di kapsu teni concept yo dur ji zungnian la dur ngusu tongni ni pongwa dang zhawo res nyantu pa de res. Ani tati ote songsias. Teni nyantu dang nyam de ta rang sang ji se wa ji yo res. Dang go ti korte de hiarok ji song kan chong song ni nyong ji he ge yan se rang sang ji de. Nyantu dang chok ji ba re di nang de chap kong ji la du yo re na rang sang ji se wa ji yo res. Rang ja.
So also I want to add something about the perception of the Pratyekabuddhas, or the individual realizers. So someone asked me, basically in this text, as I said yesterday, Rongzom groups the Pratyekabuddhas into the Shravaka group. But there's actually slight differences between their positions. And so, someone asked me to say something about that. So I'm just going to say something in brief about the Pratyekabuddhas.
Ani Rongzom Chenpo ge takchen chunjuk na la yang rangsang ji kor mabu songkendu. Be na rangsang ji la chona joba dang seru tawo se ni rangsang ji la kang dang rigni yo pare. Korang ji bu ri gang la jung dong gen ji dang mamang dang nyam de pyong ken ji rigni yo re.
So actually, Rongzom in another much longer work by him called Entering the Way of the Mahayana, he talks about Pratyekabuddhas at some length, and he says that there's basically two types of Pratyekabuddhas. There's Pratyekabuddhas that wander, that spend their lives alone in the mountains, and then there's Pratyekabuddhas that, that mix with people in society.
Yinaya rang chi sang chi sewa de kamur kyu ni matang manang ge kacha ma xin kan yin re song yo res. Jik cha chu jik de res.
But he says that one of the special features of defining features of Pratyekabuddhas is that they don't utter a single word. They are completely silent.
Chachu niba de korang ge kutsi de la korang la girgin chiga yo maris. Lopon yo maris. Lopon. Lama.
Oh, listen. So, and then the second characteristic of a Pratyekabuddha is that Pratyekabuddha doesn't have a teacher, doesn't have a master or lama.
Chachu samba de korang pepi kap de la santi tamba bate mepi kaps pep kres.
And then the third characteristic is that the Pratyekabuddha appears in periods when the Buddha's dharma has completely disappeared.
Perna santi shakya tabi tamba de njuk zok jatsu chamba ngombo de mapep ku par ku tongba la khong pep ku yores zambulang la.
So, for example, after the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha are completely forgotten, and before Maitreya appears, in that kind of intervening period, that's the period when a Pratyekabuddha could appear.
Tati korte perna uma tsawa shirub ke lego churjit ba ge nderba de chog nang la ti jimsen dang khong tendi chaya ge jimsen dang te khong ro wangbo dang mu ba ge ta jimsen ke cha de yore ti chu ko chetang song yore ta terang ma bu xiu mes.
So there's also a lot of discussion about Pratyekabuddhas in terms of their capacities and their kind of goals and so forth, particularly in the 11th chapter of the root verses on the middle way, the wisdom of the root verses in the middle way. But I don't want to get into all of that today. So, but if you're wondering why does he not speak? Why does the Pratyekabuddha not speak?
Kongo kutsi ngama ga hikala ya ngak nipa ta ka khaswa de nipa tamchi ga zaware samni de de chang samni de ka shan ni ya nyong hiu ji nang ken ji yin zang kutsi de la kongki chu da rachon top sona ya chu song ko mare se ngak go ni chu song ko mare.
So it's actually the influence of previous lifetimes where the Pratyekabuddha has understood that all negative actions kind of are rooted in speech. So many negative things come out of speech. And so for that reason, the Pratyekabuddha has strived to reduce his or her speech. And to be a very, very sparing with speech. And so then in this lifetime, even if he gains arhatship, the Pratyekabuddha does not speak and does not teach the Dharma, at least not through a verbal way.
Tani pena nyantung rawa yana sangjigun doni katsa shuruwa chu tu tani pena tramba nyerjakse la sokpa la teni nyamlen chekere yana yang rang sangji tetan raga mare korang la lama yo mare chu yo mare kare nangare sina kewa ngomma ga teni nyamlen nangjak jogo bakchak te sani rangjin ge tochut ka nang la phib gare se tochut ka nang na mu ro rulba dang ruba de zon tong yong di sokchak na da mi ge ruba tong di ruba da gawani chongre se di shiwa li chongre shiwa gawani chongre se gawani chongre se tini ya tendir chu ni de gom di o ta kewa de ta pe na ga so yin de wa mar ba de number shiba de tini li chongsha li chongsha li de marikpa li chongsha seni tini hako tini marikpa zoksona tini li me samni tini ga zari kora jamni gomni ni korang dachung top do kris mixer ki chachu de ko tindir tokba se ko tindir yang nak chu ni rang korang go gom go ngo sin da zo de res.
So now, as for the hearers of the Shravakas, as we talked about yesterday, they hear the Dharma directly from the Buddha, and then they progress in the stages of mindfulness and so forth. But Pratyekabuddhas are quite different because they don't have a Lama, and because of that, then they don't have Dharma either. They don't have a body of teachings. What happens is that they have habitual imprints of practice in a previous lifetime that are somehow awakened, kind of activated in this lifetime. And when that happens, they go to a charnel ground or cemetery, and they go in search of dead bodies, either human or other animals, and they look for decaying bodies and the bones, and they look, and they find some bones. And then they think, well, where did that come from? They realize that came from death. And then where does death come from? Well, it comes from aging. And they, proceeding like that, they work backwards through the 12 links of interdependence. Eventually they get to consciousness. Where did consciousness come from? It comes from It comes from our ignorance. It comes from our karma, and then karma comes from our ignorance. And so this is, in this way, they realize interdependence. And so that is the kind of special meditation that is the path for Pratyekabuddhas.
Tege ming de la jaik na la jam yige na la yuan jue la go yore tindir tokba li ji pa se boke na la namjin rang sang ji la go rang ki rang par ji da chung to ya su ya ta shi da ya de rang ni de ga sang ji se na sang ji muni de mari na sang jin ring bo re da ko ko ming la sang jin ring bo la bi yore cham cham da chung nyan tu da chung li tokban to ya 상지리 마야요 장거 상진 정보라비 타니 때가라 요래 연나야 남진 망치와 그 랑잘 랑상지라 그러와 랑잘스나 랑게 랑잘 잘월지 봐 아무튼 녀몽버 달리 잘월지 봐 아니 야나 랑기랑 되게 상식고 공부 더 버지 봐. 어디래스. 민가가랑.
So we see this reflected in the names for Pratyekabuddhas as well. So in Chinese, the Pratyekabuddhas are generally called Yuanjue. So they have realized, on their own. Same thing. They've realized the truth of interdependence. So same thing in Tibetan, we see they are called usually Rang Sangye. So Rang means self, Sangye is Buddha. So they are like self Buddhas. They're not actually full Buddhas. So sometimes we call them the middle Buddhas, the medium Buddhas. So we have, they are higher than a Shravaka. And they are lower than a full-blown Buddha, right? So they are, middling Buddhas. Another term for them is the Rangyel. That means self-victor. So they have been victorious over the enemies that are the afflictive emotions.
아니 다 냥투당 랑상디니 캬버 쪼 가리르스나 냥투 강서 담에 짬도요레 따티 강라 니 랑상지가 추지 담에 또좀 도요레스 정말 도요 말어 따 딘리람나 되게요레스.
So there's also a slight difference in terms of the realization of selflessness. So as we've said several times that the hearers realize the selflessness of the person, but not of phenomena. But the Pratyekabuddhas start to realize the selflessness of phenomena. They don't get very far, but they start to see it a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Then oh, yeah. Then the all yotpa number V, so I just songs. That in Chibinchigana, some similar some rocks. Yotpa V.
So now at the last line of page 3, if you're following in the text, the last sentence, it says, among what are known as the 4 modes of existence. So please, I want you to learn what the 4 modes of existence are. I want you to learn this list of 4.
Oh, yeah. That dancing piano computer down tending on and this will a remote on his zone. Pay up so I said, Drikung Kagyu, Ming Atang, the Yopa Yo, the Kadikadinimar, Mepa Chanro Yopa, the Yopa Yeti, Rumki, Mepa Chanro Yopa, Corum, the Okangaso, the Samdan Gomlang, Shani Remondo, then I get 3 choices in that the Chana Batso, you Adiona to
So I feel like these days with computers and everything, there must be a way to make a beautiful image of all of this, to depict it in visual form, where we've got a snake, we've got a reflection of a snake, we've got 5 people looking at it, and then we have this progressive, progressively developing understanding of that, very similar to the mural of the path of meditation that is it on the bathhouse wall? Yeah. So, something like that. I think if any of you have an idea of how to depict this visually, please do that. No. Or else we can offer a mandala to our great AI, master AI.
Oh yeah. Rita, Nanyan Kachin Surum Ludu, Laron Garlayan, Tapa, Keranso, Desu, Bichut Tangni, Pena Kiram Gomiatan, Flag Gomiatan, Penangaso, Tigu, Number Hariatan, Sama Tansan D, 3D.
3D.
Oh, take a talk the Bichut Tang Zuguris, Konzuri, Dorjisemba Gomtan Lazo, pay about.
Yeah, so at the Larungar monastery in Tibet, Khenpo Dza Tsering and encouraged everyone recently to start using these technologies to create. For instance, they've created this really incredible 3D depiction in 3 dimensions of the meditation on Vajrasattva, for instance. So, to kind of depict some of these creation stage meditations and so forth, there's really a lot we can do.
Yeah, 다 같은데 in the Facebook and the social media 참아 각 타고 말이 각 마토디 가서 가르치고 그러시나 장쇼스 비추다야 되리스. 되리. 내가 저 주요니 나 노연 람케르스라 나게 책으로 요리스.
Yeah, we can't block Facebook and social media and all these things, right? So what can we do? We can use them for good. And this is also an instance, this is also a way of bringing sensory objects onto the path.
Oh, yeah. Tadi don tambar yotpa, concept yotpa, ti niga zis yopa, takbi yopa. Zida tagayutsajo, tagayuk tarnite ola dudu, tachahagoro, or zis yopa, takbi yopa, se parchatiji in service.
So the 4 modes of existence, then, the trick is on page 3, only 3 of them are listed. But if you read the footnote, you'll get the 4th one. So the 4 modes of existence are the conventional existence, ultimate existence, then substantial existence, and then imputed existence is the one. Let me see how he's translated it. But if you look at the footnote, nominal. So he's saying nominal existence. I've been calling it imputed existence, but yeah.
Oh yeah. 제가 디 나니 다 코가 딱 비요바 또요 말이. 다 쿠가린 증크요리스나 당니때 양 요버른 증크요리 돈담바리 요반 증크요리 지스양 요버른 증크요리 콜라 요버른 점바 섬데요리스 다디 냔투라 어때리 당가서 remote 콜라 점바 섬요리스.
Okay, so everyone drawing drawing this diagram, pay attention here. So the Shravakas, the hearers, they have 3 out of these 4. So they see the ultimate existence. They see the reflection of the snake as ultimately existent, conventionally existent, and substantially existent. So they have 3. So in our chart or our diagram, we've got 3 out of the 4 in this section. So to this degree of detailed analysis, I've only seen in Rongzom's writings. I've never seen this in someone else's writings. So now the second kind of interpretation of the metaphor corresponds to the middle way of the Madhyamaka system of the Mahayana.
Yeah. Then no one the young takbar, the young takbar say the young don't tamper say under Munichina say under Tateri or the Takshanga Jenna say you're in also things on my junk time that Tanitera. Rikbag Jenna say Ritondare. What did it? Rikbag Tashi Jenna, this is maybe Jumata, say Hakuris.
Okay, so it says, in this case, these appearances are like magical illusions because they are not substantially they are not substantially established as something real. So this word here, real, this is can almost be a synonym for ultimate reality, sort of. So in this case, they are not established as that. And when we study Madhyamaka, we learn, that we are to apply a rational analysis, to examine things with our reason, and when we do so, we'll find that there is no substantial or material existence here to this reflection of the snake.
가르치니 오마발랍 키요리스나 동반님 그 따와 똥비 점천기 오마바 라고요 말했지. 다대양 고고랬어. 그 동반님 그 따와디 너지 좀이 나나 송그 요래 때 오마바 라고요 말했어. 오마바 마디마카.
Lassa. Okay, so when we talk about the middle way, Madhyamaka literally means like the middle people, the middle way. Why are we calling them the middle people? This is an important thing to understand. So it's not actually the case that they are called, adherents to the middle way because of an understanding of emptiness. So emptiness is actually taught in the Diamond Sutra, the Vajracutter Sutra, for instance. It's it's not like emptiness does not lie in the hands of the Madhyamakins. It's not their property.
Yeah. 저당기 동반예 때 상지 좀 된디가 추담지 동반예를 송니 야신부 송샤그레스. 디지선 공부 루주기 상지 송의 동반예가 니루때 다 딘돈 타뚝바레 송니 점선 마보 히우시 그 단라 팝장 디라 오마바당 오미종세 좀 타데 되니 정레스.
Emptiness was taught by Lord Buddha. He said that all phenomena are empty, and he, gave this extremely vast teaching on emptiness. And following which, then Nagarjuna came and taught many things to kind of establish the truth, like logically or rationally establish the truth of these teachings on emptiness and the emptiness of the natural state. So Nagarjuna came and provided the kind of philosophical argument. And out of that, we get this philosophical tradition that is called the Madhyamaka, or the middle way. And we get all of the Madhyamaka treatises and, the whole curriculum, all of that stems from that.
제장별난 공부 루저당 다와tak바당 야시시와라당 다 콩남바가 송 릭바망부 지요레스 대초가 짠나 돈라 쯤도 세와 다고리 돈라 지스마르바 세와 데리 돈타바르 지스마르바 주마타브리스.
So from the perspective of Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Shantideva, all of the positions put forth by these great philosophers, then actually there is no snake. It is illusory.
인나양 뚝규미 샤와시 니바 인도 근니 뇽몽부 추 유마다워 딱장 탑지 맞으나 노비 샤와시엘라 선나 판비 샤와양 시비 건접도 지시오 비셔 랑도르 샤워 도데스 데너 드르지 zugn인 예양 자와지비 지요 버도 바타오고스 오다데스 데인디 디캅스다 가르송 거여서 돈다 돈 담버 메나양 서와 데니 건접도 요버레스 건접도 요바데고 건접도 판비 자와지 그래 노비 자와지 그래서 데 오마비 데 가랑 도고 요르바 오데레스.
So then the text continues. However, it says, just as an illusory poison has the capacity to produce effects, so the illusion-like polluting factors of existence produce harmful effects if they are not dealt with by skillful means, but they produce beneficial effects if they are dealt with by such means. Therefore, because such phenomena are substantially existent on the conventional level, it is claimed by the Madhyamakins that they should be accepted or rejected. This is similar to claiming that although it is just a reflection of a snake, it has substantial existence in producing effects. In this system, let's see. Yeah, okay, we'll stop there for now.
Oh, yeah. 된다 연장 철은들라는 요바 넘버 1가 나니 공랑가 주 요바 2세와 지다 요르와 디 나니 돈 담버 요바세와 다 kileng 말이 근접도 요바당 딱비 요바 희샤와당 담바이노 다텔라 요바 니기 차진데 요레스 다 근접도 요레라 딱윳 요레스 딱비 요바레스.
So what the Madhyamaka view is then, or would be regarding the reflection of the snake, is that it does not exist ultimately. The snake does not exist ultimately, but it does exist conventionally. And so because of that, it has the potential to either cause benefit or cause harm. So that's the Madhyamaka position as laid out here. So then it says, in this system among the four kinds of existence, again, the so-called ultimate existence is refuted. So again, it does not have ultimate existence, but it does have conventional existence and nominal existence, or imputed existence are retained. So it does have conventional existence, and therefore it can produce effects. It can do things.
Oh yeah. Tanda yinzi ta tete kongi tarta pe nipa tere kansa nipa yowa drla tankin ke nipa shogle nipa gna la kajig no drji zungyen de shi de yang tak bo dr ma yin ba shi chans ne drg zungyen la no bi xiawa yo nipa yo per toni tabji nimbo tembi zorwa chedo se wa watate de nipa teres.
So this, what we've just discussed then, is the position or the explanation of the viewpoint of the second person who was looking at the snake. So if we go back to page 2, and it says, talking about the second person viewing the snake, it says that some know it to be a reflection of a snake. So although they thus recognize that it is not a real snake, they see that even a reflection has the capacity to produce harmful effects. So they make efforts to rely on ways to counteract it through skillful means. So that's the kind of the metaphor that was set up, and then we've had the explanation of it.
Oh yeah. Ta pe sambate higayens. Pe sambate jawa tang nanjur chiba tuba gyudindes. Dan dig yang Jawa tang nanjur chiba sewa di dini tupa sewa di tonde ndordi chiyes.
So now we come to the third position, the third person, and this is an explanation of the viewpoint of practitioners of Kriya Tantra and other outer tantras, and Kriya and Yoga outer tantras of asceticism. So I'm going to tell you a bit about that.
Teni perna Triya Aba Yoga se do Kriya Aba Yoga se do. O ti Kriya jena karina ti jawi gut lap ko yores pokla jawa se go jimsen te sanghak ta re de yena yang khora zo de chi choga cha dang laglin ka ton lika mabu chi go yores tan chopa mabu hyam go ya chak mabu sa go yo pa ta tenri ge chi tu lok mabu jo jab go chu mabu jab go la so pe ka de chartin mabu yo za jawi git lap.
So, we talk about the outer tantras are Kriya Tantra, Kriya, Upa, Yoga. Those are the three here. So, excuse me. So, now, if we talk about Kriya, in Tibetan we call this Jawa. Kriya is the Sanskrit word. In both cases, it means activity. So activity tantra, so, this is a teaching of secret mantra. However, as the name suggests, the emphasis is on ritual and ritual activities, and there are a lot of different things that need to be done. It's very busy. There's lots of things to be done. So there's many different offerings that need to be offered. There's many, prostrations that need to be counted. You have to change costumes. You have to bathe frequently. There's so many different things that need to be done. So we call this the activity tantra.
Teni naljur shawada naljur. Ta naljur tang naljur chimbo ta senanda ta karsa chawa choba chojit tang naljur ku junniga de naljur sewa de yang 치와가 나니 야 난기냠 난기 곰대랑 쪼치야리 자와테 투스지 뇨뇨이 비점선 그 나르줄라고 요래 더니 자와당 곰니가 찬염이 비점선 그 쪼발라고 요래스 다 대마도 때랑 휴토고 말했어.
Excuse me. So then we also have the two other kind of groups of Tantra included in the outer Tantras are Charya or conduct Tantra, and then Yoga, which at this point we just say Yoga in English, but Yoga Tantra. So now in Yoga, and we also have Mahayoga Tantra, but in the Yoga Tantras, basically, there's more meditation, less ritual, less emphasis on ritual action. And so you start to have some inner cultivation and lesser ritual, external ritual. And then the Acharya Tantra is practices where the ritual action and inner meditation are kind of in equal measure. So that's about all that I'm going to say about this today. But
빌나 탕 야럽 가스 야낙라 다리아가 상약 망치와당 당상 야르벤라 요비 상약 망치와디 네가 요가 단타라당 디고레스.
So actually the Tantra that was transmitted to East Asia, and particularly China during the Tang Dynasty, and that survives today in Japan, in Japanese Buddhism, that the Tantric traditions there are mainly Yoga Tantra.
다 보크 상약 나라양 그 요레스. 다티바드 규바 요레스.
We also have the lineages for these in alive until the present moment in Tibetan Buddhism as well.
다 콩소고 가르를 송그 요레스나 낭위 춘다닥 탐지 기마타고 임비 지강양 메데스. 니신 요 마레스. 다티 드르티 춘 요 마레스. 셈그 띵니 이치르다. 돈 담버 메나양 tarnit parser chi no chigre samni chi orwata o tede oma barwata ko o ta jeche jendi no ta chek mare te yenna yang i lakpan chang pokme duk sam ko orta o tede yana me yambala roba chi lamni ka tang thap ko yores ta de drurti wang ta tang na be drurki wang ta tang na ter be sambarwa.
So now if we look so for these outer tantras, Kriya, Yoga, and so forth, it says, here, phenomenal appearances are without any substantial existence because they are like illusions. So these practitioners know that the reflection of the snake is illusory, just as the Madhyamakans recognized that it was illusory. So it lacks a substantial existence. But then what we saw with the Madhyamakans was that even though they knew that the reflection of the snake was a reflection and was illusory, they were still concerned that it had the potential to cause some kind of harm. And so here, these practitioners are convinced from the bottom of their hearts, they're totally convinced, they totally believe fervently that the snake, there's no real snake, it doesn't exist, and as such it can't cause harm. They're not worried at all that it can cause harm, and yet they still can't bring themselves to touch it. So even though these things are without such a fault, the adepts cannot bring themselves to take action due to the power of previous fear. So they're not brave enough to reach out and touch it. But they say to themselves, but there is one thing we can do. We can summon an external divine hero to act on our behalf. So we can ask a friend to come help us.
Deni ndela ngusu ndesongdo pawo yanla kor niso sewa de tapsi tang tapkres. De xenang de pangya ga tapsi tang tapkres. Tapsi de gare tang gerso kongso go bernas riksum 당 릭아 당 릭둑라 속바 된디 그 공소 라 곰야요와 릭이라 속바 디 라 곰니 베나 다 되게 도지양지 겐코스야 다고 빼 야청 보고 된디 당 빼는 자르번 그 쭉라 칸테서 빼 믹서도 나 칸이 다와 카긴 거나 손예 자르번 자르번 빼 믹서도 상해 그 곰바데서 니 동지 얘기.
So here, this last line, they are able to summon an external divine hero. So this is like a daka to act on their behalf. So again, they have this problem of being afraid of it, even though they know that it's not real and it can't hurt them. They're afraid. And so, we have one thing we can do. We can ask someone to help us. And so that's what we see in these tantric traditions, where they rely on the different sets of Buddha families, deities from the Buddha. So we have mandalas of 3 Buddha families, 4 Buddha families, 5 Buddha families, 6 Buddha families, and so forth. So one example is the Vajradhatu mandala that I recently went to Japan and saw some of the Vajradhatu mandalas that have been built in Japanese temples. And so I want to tell you a bit about that.
나 간년 촉조 동진 촉조래 촉조래 어때 촉조 삼삼이 노도라 저랑 할 거라 그뭐 니忘记了名字啊那个你知道东京观音庙
观音庙
촉초나 짜리这个拉康西都而且给我们你讲看야사
Tokyo. Okay.
대라 짜리这个拉康西都짜리 짜리 때야 야낙 남경가 존들이 관인 때 말이 짜리 착동장동 운니 그 짜리这个拉康요레스.
So I went to a temple of Avalokiteshvara in Tokyo, and often in Japanese temples, Avalokiteshvara appears in this is very similar to Chinese Guanyin form, but in this temple, it's Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 arms, 1,000 eyes, exactly as we are familiar with that.
치저금이 로리리라 사야마부 용구 요래라운데 지나서 벌써 조여랬어. 딜란로큰 창만 이쁘도 딜란로거든. 곰바디나라 로거든.
Yeah, so
tourists.
It's a major tourist destination in Tokyo. So any of you who have been to Japan may very well have seen it. It has millions of international visitors a year.
옛날야 라칸기 낭라 끼름크루 드비시지 요래 말도 궁운이티 나쪽은 통야 강야요 말이지. 지큰 상방 통야요 말이지. 그 잘해요 말이지. 나도 보고 공부해서 나긴 그 친구 저기 하면 되는 말이지.
Chenresig kuyo man.
통야요 말이지.
통야요 말.
믿긴 통트고 말이지.
So when you walk into the temple, though, they have a giant square mandala, and the Vajradhatu mandala, but there's no statue. There's nothing to see.
Madhyamaka 다르람 인사말을 하고 마서 임해 하고 마서.
라.
dorji yang ji king ko ran yim ha ko ma san
Oh, I'm sorry. Not necessarily Vajradhatu, sorry. Just a square mandala.
Yeah. Yenna yang go yi yon ni gala yang ngamu hanji yami yaigro tindi yige chi tindus. Sanji go la ndonjap yo mares. Choran kawa yo na te sanji go ndore se tsindu. Ngape de gason te tsigala.
So, however, on either side of the mandala, there's Chinese characters, old-fashioned Chinese writing, saying that the Buddha does not have a front or back. Wherever you are looking, the Buddha is right in front of you.
다동 콘소 그 고추야게 쳇다 등산 자나가 짠티즈 이게 대요아. 대 샘플을 째니 양설라 통통 주티니 샤샤.
Oh, so they actually, because it's such a, I don't know, if just traditional Chinese characters or kind of an ornate script. So they actually put the modern simplified characters next to it to help modern readers understand.
아니 가서 상황형 보고 나나 돌지선 봐 송용 디그 샬군데 탈레와 송르와
Sharkundu Tali.
답변나 야리 칸가나라 돌지 삼바요나 샬쇼 참말라 샤르데 탈레와 상탈림바레스 저런 척가니잖아 샤 저런라 샤쇼요레 송르와 땡이 텐송.
So I just loved that statement, and I immediately thought about the statement in the Sangwanimbo, the Guhya Garbha Tantra. It says that I'm not sure how to translate it, but the meaning is that your every direction is east. So if the deity is looking east, the deity in the center of the mandala is always looking east. So from what the Tantra is teaching you is that every direction that you are looking is east. Like you.
Oh yeah, takantariang jarban la sokpala sang tarya hukchiati ondi kores the lurging uni tagachan shins.
So this is, what we're talking about here is the type of secret mantra teachings that were transmitted to East Asia and that we can see today in Japan, for instance.
Tani ta tamtsik pa dang yishi pa niga tadat gongkuyorwa. Ti jimtsen tere tamtsik pa sewa de sosore maung pa na ta tlati ngor sangji rongwa chires. Yishi pa sewa de rangli tata pa tani maung pa na tani yokbo dang ta pombo nang yinchi ni gongkuyore. Hlade pa na jarbo nang yinchi rangni yokbo nang yinchi ni. Tani iga ndishi chik yotsang di kapsu rangni tatani ni li rang yin yinba ga samlo de ta lebkyo maris.
So when we meditate, visualize ourselves as the deity, we first visualize ourselves as the Samaya deity, the Samaya being, and then we invite the wisdom being. The reason for this, that we have these two, Samaya and wisdom beings, is that, first of all, the Samaya being is you visualize yourself, as the deity that you are trying to become. Then the wisdom being is the deity itself. So the relationship between these two is like between king and servant. So the deity is the king and we are the servant. And so to try to bridge that, we have this Samaya and wisdom beings.
Oh yeah, and ti jawlo ta sholing abare. Tena durji zungyen la kyun me pra shi jang rekpur muni ba dang rate sita kharsang ge te pesam ba der wal sulndon yopa namba jeli ton tam de yoba de kakhre la konzup de zis yoba shi sha ba de kakhres ta konzup de takpi yoba konzup de yoba dang takpi yoba ni ga de ta khyo maris ni khak ni ma khak ba no.
So now we continue on page 5. So this is similar to knowing that the reflection of a snake is harmless, but still not being able to touch it oneself. So among the four modes of existence, in this system, the so-called ultimate existence as well as substantial existence on the conventional level are refuted, but nominal existence on the conventional level is retained. So in this case, of the four modes of existence, two are refuted and two are retained.
Ta takpi yoba ta zizi yoba nigala chapar che oresina te be nangak chimbo chires tangi raram chi shogi.
So what then is the difference between nominal existence and substantial existence? This is a really key point, so I'm going to
지키나 인지 당라 베탕니 되체나 발리로 차차요 서그레스 다이나 나랑 삼나 데르히 잡고야로 삼롱 코르송세 고그레 벨라다.
So it's possible that actually you find this very easy to understand in English, and I just feel like we need to discuss it because the Tibetan terms are harder to understand. Do you need some help here?
Okay. Okay. Ta zis yoba seondu perna de kormoris. 내 데브레 라브다. 어때 데브레스. 그 데브 무이 니츠르 토라 데브직들라 요리 삼다나 그 대비 연바당 대비 지스트바 시위다 찾아오리스.
Okay, so if we talk about substantial or material existence, so I'm holding up a book. This is really a book. It has a substantial reality and material. It's got a material basis.
당인들이 현대 득세를 배워. 철진 강양 미비 토크니 봐. 철진 미바. 무条件. What English? Unconditional. Okay, unconditional. 철진 미비 토크니 요리 그 요바 탁자 탑이야 돼 지시요 말이다.
Okay, so it unconditionally exists. So it yeah.
대지시요. 딱딱 비요 봤을 요 요래 때 옛날 양선이 요일그 김천지시안이 요반도 조야를 말도 돈라시다 다 요래스나 면도 괜찮지 창로도와 담보랑미 요시 봤대 딱 비요 봐라고 요래.
So if we talk about nominal existence or imputed existence, then we're saying, yes, this exists, but then we qualify it in all these different ways. We have reasons that we have to work through, and sometimes it ends up in a kind of funny spot where we're not quite sure what's going on. But basically, yes, basically it exists. So that's nominal or imputed existence.
Perna mikasiga tipaga neyo나 동 까르보데 세르본토고 여러봐. 돈라 serbo 요르베스 요 말이 코랑라 뚜니 요르베스나요 요리서 야노 차로도와 통큰 코랑 그 출비 몰라 뚜니 요르베스나 요 말이 나야 지스트바 타니 땡 요 말이 봐 어때로 진이다 점순직 톤이 요바 차를 말도 몰라 요 말이 제가 딱 비요 봐라.
So an example of nominal existence might be when you have someone suffering from jaundice, who then sees things as yellow. That, with looking at white objects, sees them as yellow. Is that really yellow? The answer is no. There's no substantial existence to the yellow. And yet that yellow is being perceived. So that is a nominal existence.
보이게 당닌 자로도나 딱 세워대 민딱 딱다 지바로 딱차 제정 변나 저런 짜시 변나 저런 엘리자베트 레라 비잖아 켄 엘리자베트 마르왈 옛날야 민데라 저 엘리자베트는 나연람 촉리 옛날야 민세와데 무슬라 딱이잖아 지바로 저런 짜시레라 코 짜시 촉리 옛날 갑돈 나 짜시 딱이야데 나 짜시 착송래 니 나타시 연삼니 고알랑니 로작 셔요레 어 디수자 모데 거라 민딱라고도 와 민데 나라 끼오디 요죠 말와 파라 민데라시 딱니 갑톡데라 딘디지 주자네 니 참미 토모데 키랑송한다 오레 딘디데 딱 유스와디 딘디지 리당 뇽몽바 박차가 왕기 니컵 딘디지 이마차 안디 메바착선나 돈라 메바착도 어디 딱 유스
인지롱바 기어모 콜라
다키면도 대 고면도 진짜 당기 민가리 받대.
So another example would be, for instance, nominal is a nice translation in that the word in Tibetan is it's the verb for naming something. So when you name something, when you apply a name to it, that is the tak. So this is tak here, nominal existence. So, for example, if I give you a name, I can just name you Elizabeth. That doesn't necessarily make you Elizabeth. I can, call you Elizabeth. I can also call you Tashi. And sometimes you actually become Tashi. If you get that name, then that's who you are. Sometimes it doesn't exactly work that way either. So that is the nominal existence, that it is existent on the basis of habitual imprints from karma, through the power of karma.
틈당 틈바그 틈스와 대양은 뭐카히직 주소닌 턴니는 주송라고 되듯이 좀 수약되는 참작성을 니버지근도 니마 찍라 디 선전된 로야나 아니 디 매바창로도 된저리지 딱 세와대 탄히 딱바 망보지들이 요래서 얘는 네 값을 추 탐짓 딱바리라고 요래서 무보 탐짓 딱 요래라고 요래서 근접과 나와도 탐짓 딱 비요바리라고 요래서 잡공받에 말해봐라.
So, however, when you are creating things through naming, you can also they're not necessarily long lasting. You know, you can change the name. So just as you can make someone Tashi by naming him that, you can also change the name and he's no longer Tashi. So the same thing with, you know, we see this also like in legislative bodies. You know, when in Congress they make some law, you know, they so there's a power there. There's a discussion that happens and then it leads to creating a law. So there's a power there that can create law. And yet, all you have to do is change the president or something, you know, and that law can be undone. So here, we're talking about imputing or nominally, like naming into existence all phenomena. It's the same thing that you can establish them through names. And so on the conventional level, they are conventionally real. But you can also change the name.
Tani 건습도 딱 비요바는 여대스 토몽그 뎀바니 출도 잠세 너 잠세야 되고 요래 다 나와 마 타니의 딱바 잠지 나서 민이가 나와는데 잠 요래스 그봐 의미가서 jen인데 바 잠시 위측지 비슷한 거래 단데 오래 건습도 지스 메버시스 건습 다양 랑고 뎀버 트파지 요 마레스 지스 요 마레스 파 jen가 관계 그런 다치 박착가 관계 능 약바베나 물름 다버리스 다들라고요 인나양 디가 물름 인나양 물름 라 셴바디 요르다 된다 옌디 돈 담바다 근접 이름이 버똑 냠바 침부 따와데 총총오지 요르지 냠바 침부 따와 럼바슴 그 나오니 총무대 요리스. 정보대 난저 낭바르와 침보대 적바 침보르와 오다 디갑서 냠바 침부 따와 총총대 요리스.
So it says that in addition to accepting only this system of two truths in common with the Madhyamaka, so the nominal existence on the conventional level is retained, right? And so then, in addition, they share in common with the Madhyamaka the system of the two truths. To this degree are they sharing something in common. That's why it says only this system of the two truths in common with the Madhyamaka. They recognize that there is no substantial existence on the conventional level. So they are nominally existent, merely in terms of nominal existence. They are conventionally existent to a nominal degree. And that's where they differentiate from the Madhyamaka, is that there's no substantial existence on the conventional level. So it's merely the illusion, the reflection of the snake appears merely through the power of conditioned arisings, you know, and through our habitual imprints. It appears like a dream. And so, however, you know, it says, it is here that the view of equality, which realizes the inseparability of the ultimate and conventional, is first attained, albeit to a lesser degree. So it appears like a dream. They recognize it to be like a dream. And through that, this position starts to realize the inseparability of ultimate and conventional truth. And so this is to a small degree. So there's going to be 3 levels of this realization. The middle degree is recognized by the practitioners of Mahayoga, and then the highest level is for the Dzogchen.
아니 니 죽도 땅이 저랑다 롱좀 그 송건난 그 단이 즉 같이 보이지가 섬고트 제기였어. 되니가 저 자동.
Okay, so I want to introduce to you 3 important terms used by Rongzom, and then we'll have a tea break.
직대 시진 진보. 전바당 시진 그 시진. 시진 진보. 니바데 땅님 진보. 선바데 냠바 진보. 됐음데 롱좀 그 송고난 그 다니 저거 차슈지 섬이래스.
Okay, so 3 of the weightiest, most important terms in Rongzom's teachings are first, great alertness. Second, great equanimity. Third is great equality.
냠바침 보러 되니 나좀 발성가 지라 드와텔랭 티츠테 카상리데자 마요스 다토 니 상켄 남바요난다 다 자르자나는 용케난다 데 참마가야 소소 드와요나 답dig나로친 드와티 통통지나니 가서 갑도가 란 카운터도 피우이스
가상 드와 링자르
고마 갑도가 티쳐
So we're also want to have time for questions and answers today. So I want to make sure that that any of you that have questions, take a moment to formulate them, and then we, including people who are online, feel free to submit a question, and then we will have time to discuss those as well.
That's all.
I'll take a short break.
Jarban dugdwa. Oh, good. Good. Arabazanarde, 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 Arabazanard. That's given. Oh yeah. Okay? Ready? Sorry. Yeah. Tanga Tungo Tsurwal. Tani Ronsum Chimbogi Korte Ne
So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the history around Rongzum.
Ane ta Rongzum panchita de karchanga chu lopo napo chopa ga namchure senga chu shures.
So I told you yesterday that he was considered to be an emanation of Krishnapada.
Ya kashi ge Rongzum panchita ta taga zum jertang ki lozawa shi yimba nang yin che ni yang kongo lorji jiores da namjön dar de jiores dikapse yang kanji ji jiores na Rongzum chuzang shi xiawa chu tamchit malapar dorshi se jibaji shongres dor yongres koram 한 말고 봐 갑자기 돌 나는 코본 추야 돌 침믹 돌세 저 봐. 치료 영화노. 돌 시스 정화스. 갑 람니 시바 마인 바로와. 갑두가 돌 용어레스. 돌스와 내가 저나 빼나 디나는 추몽부 주요나 버가지거나 디나는 파 용도와 디나는 돌 시스 근데 정어레 송득스.
So there's also another account of Rongzum's life where they talk about him as just kind of an ordinary translator. But it says that Rongzum Chukyi Sangpo was, he had studied the Dharma to such a degree that he was bursting with Dharma. It was like bursting out of him.
제장 카시 가르라우스나 반지다 탈라라무 세위 야거 반지다 지거래 민라 탈라라무.
So some people then identified him as this Indian pundit Tralaramo.
아니 때 볼라 팸니 로자와 종니 콩랑야 탑신라면니 종통사로 대 갑득라 롱좀 반트다 코바나 슈그레스 종죽지자 그랬어 롱좀 버거 임비가 야 딘디 송땅지여레스.
And so people So it's Rongzum 나는 Rongzum ki tsarne.
Yeah, 인다.
So this account says that this Indian Pandita Tralaramo, he came to Tibet and he didn't find a translator, so he was not able to really teach very much. So he ended up transferring his consciousness into Rongzom. So that's another account that you hear that also explains Rongzom's, ingenuity.
옛날야 까적 치휴 직다 용작 직대 따라 나타 근킨 따라 나타데 롱좀 바고 뚜스쿠리티오리스. 전환 근킨 따라 나타.
So there's another account that is very widely accepted that the great scholar Taranata, the Jonang tradition, was the rebirth of Rongzom.
근데 전환 근킨 따라 나타 정말 하고 요엘라.
Does everybody know about the Jonang Taranata?
주의소.
Please raise your hands if you're familiar with him.
따라 나타때 전환 바그 좀 타고 문이잖아 빼 짜친 버렸어. 당가 주인나지 말마 딱 삼세로 나게 까르짓 바그. 아니 전환 바그 옛나 따라 나타스디다 디디 찍리스. 공소.
So Taranata was extremely important in terms of establishing the philosophical tradition of the Jonang tradition. Is sort of like in the Kagyu we talk about Marpa, Milarepa, and Gampopa, this trio that of the founding fathers, maybe we could say, but for the Jonangpas, it's Taranata, one figure.
Yeah. 아니 따라 나타된 키바 치부 임바 잠도 마즈 지진 드로마가 톱
And not only was Taranata very learned, but he had accomplished the practice of Tara.
아니 드로마 니르치가 또바은 레라 야슈데랑 공기짬이오래 볼라.
So actually the best commentary on the 21 Taras that has been written in Tibet is by Taranata.
델리장 가르치와시 공기 야그르 춤종짬이오래. 데데 땅상단 잠볼랑기 야그르고 로지kim 죽진그 나라 까타요래.
And actually, even more important than this, he wrote a history of the Dharma in India that is referred to even by scholars of Indian. It's an important source even for Indian scholars.
자거 코란 속을 로지 트바 참아 중장장래 랍고요래 땅상. 자거 코란 키바 속에 안게 받잡고요래. 자거 그 로지 김죽 제와라 자나게宣장个람익당 이진个람익당 되니 따라 나타그 자거 충종 섬때 자치 휴차요래스. 에샤이 자거 그 로지 김죽 제발라 땅상.
So for historians studying India, the tradition of history writing in India is kind of we can say maybe legendary. So you don't feel like you're reading a scientific history, maybe. And so for historians of India, the accounts of the Chinese pilgrims, Xuanzang and Yijing, and then Taranata's account in Tibetan, these texts written by non-Indians are really crucial historical sources for Indian history.
Oh yeah. 아니 따라나타 그 고막의 명라 제존 건가 돌촉랍고 요랬어.
So Taranata's previous incarnation was named Jetsun Kunga Drolchok.
코랑기 제와 nga마 기 전요랬어. 코랑랑기 nga 제와 nga마 가르차도 소디고 코랑랑기 nga 제와 nga마 데레작 세니 미 달라마 기 문진지 요랬어 코랑.
And so he could remember 8 of his previous lives, exactly what he did, where he was born and what he had done. So 8 lamas as previous lifetimes.
코랑 그 뒤창창마 그 기왕 homma 코랑 그 뒤가고 라마 참마 그 남들 지요레스 종상직라 빼장니 양답 당보 양답 니바 양답 선바세 양답 기 지요레스.
So he actually wrote biographies of all of those previous figures, his previous lifetimes. He calls them the branch or petal of, and there's 8 of them.
다디 연습 참마 때랑 쉬고 메스.
So I'm not going to tell you all about of all 8,
연습 카시지 쉬고.
but maybe I'll tell you a few.
나초 응원시바 그 띠난 그 연습 니바데 나보 좁아 연송 그래서 그만한 거야.
So actually, the second branch that he names is Krishnapada.
연습 이바데 롱선 바 연송요 그래서.
The fourth is Rongsom.
되니 제니 좀 시나 쭉 연습 이제다 제체체 그 공다 연습 쭉쭉인데.
Oh, actually, there's 11, not 8, 11.
띠난 그 연습 찍대 뉴 겨와 하나는 바.
And one is New Gyawa Lanangpa.
고뇨에스티.
Have you heard about him?
Garchen Rinpoche brothers.
He's Garchen Rinpoche's brother.
Dharma brother.
Dharma brother.
조반 직된 섬군라 롬마 쪼섬 요레스.
So Lord Jigten Sumgun had 3 main disciples.
띠난 그 찍대 뉴 그래. 찍대 갈 찍대 추래. 뉴갈 추섬 세니 미스 요레스.
And so they're called the Nyo, Gar, and Chu, the first syllable of each of their names.
아니 갈 추당 바르바.
So Gar here refers to Gar Chudingpa,
Garchen Rinpoche 그딱 그냥 당부 쉬고 뭐라.
the first emanation, the first Garchen Rinpoche, we can say.
아니 니바데 뉴 겨바 하나는 바리.
Then there's Nyo Gyawa Lanangpa.
나무 Drikung Kagyu 그 다다 Drikung Rinpoche 가서 추적해. 그 야가라 펩니 파츠 드루루가 추라 펩니 말 펩디 뉴 겨라 하나는 바 남터 남표서. 가서 아릭잖아 여러와. 아니 공가 야성이 따인 진용. 이로 뉴슈 사건군이 남터 진용. 뉴 겨바 하나는 비 남터.
So Drikung Kagyu Rinpoche, Drikung Kagyu Rinpoche is my Dharma brother. And he came to India, he lives in Tibet, he came to India for the snake ear teachings. And he brought with him, then he went back to Tibet, but he brought with him a biography of Nyo Gyawa Lanangpa, and he loaned it to me. I read it 20 years ago.
그 다다 쇼바 다다 가서 추적시 그 뎁직 된지 전황 바당 들어요 비 뎁직 커서와 아니 니디 로지도 홉데 전성와 아니 제나바错了 지시나 삼성 때 믹서 양상부 시월에샤 전황 바당 캬버드 대위자 뉴저바 하낭 바당 니 따라 나타당 단 정선 바 참마테 기와직 바래샤.
So actually this morning, one of our Dharma friends brought a book to me about the Jonang tradition. And at that point, I kind of remembered all of this story, and I thought it's quite special connection, linking Nyo Gyawa Lanangpa with Taranata, with Rongsom. They're all, one rebirth.
더니 인공이 건가 드론촉 양답 쭉쭉보 창마당 딘죽대소라 르름직 다인선 라마하우스가 나니.
So that's during the lunch break, I looked through the 11 branches of Kunga Drolchok's previous lives.
니 콩기 나랑데 기왕하마 임비 짐선 고랑기 젬바당 텐데 빵딱야 마부 송샤 양스보 쇼송샤.
And he writes about his 11 previous incarnations. He gives a reason, and he gives reasons for why he believes that that's his previous incarnation, and he shares specific memories and different types of evidence. It's really quite incredible.
다른 양도 이바 롱좀기 나라 콩기 텐데 송샤 롱좀 발라 시모 지요레 저는 시양 요레라 시모 지요레 시모 때베 이시진 칸루민 남추 지요레 총종니 락저 그 간니 파엽다 롱좀 다냠도 까머 참마데 상스크리랑 그 땅니 나게 지게레.
So when he talks about Rongsom, his life as Rongsom, he says actually Rongsom had a daughter, so he had sons as well, but he had particularly had a daughter who was a wisdom dakini, and when she was a little girl, she spoke to her dad in Sanskrit.
옛날에 롱좀바 땅 롱좀바 yapdan si chama pe kachi rangborete simu de lo chudu chubdon ma to jugyo maris.
So Rongsom and his sons were very long-lived, as we mentioned, but his daughter only lived to be 16 or 17 years old.
Nima jigla Rongsom ba ge chu song ko yodi me chama gon tongsa ni nguse kachula sha song res.
So actually one day while Rongsom was teaching in the Dharma assembly in in a way in which everyone in the Dharma assembly could see, so like in full view of everyone, she just flew up into the sky. She went to Kechari.
And the Kong captured the Shasa Dela Kongo Guli, Tikari, and the Chiktendi, Tetachi Chahijik Masala, the Kantaran Sasha Tega Rangla, Shan Sewas in Sewa Segdua.
Sewa.
Sewa se Sing Dua.
Sewa.
Sewa, Shan Sewa Dombuti Jeres, the Harula.
So the spot that she flew up from something, some part of her body remained behind, and it transformed into, out of that grew a tree. It's called Sewa. I'm sorry, I don't know what kind of tree that is.
Shang Sewa that Yore, Chahakore, and Shang Sewa de Loma Chimbu Yore, Metok Chimbu Mabu Yore. Hope the Metok Sama de Marsala Longro. Sonsa di Sama Metok Loma, Metok Sama de Sala Dog, Metok Sama de Ridiua, Marpuk. Yes, sir.
Dama Meto, no.
Parcel Dagman, Sewala.
Shindong Chimbo.
Shindong Chimbo was a simple. A garden down in our jagger, Gara Soso.
But Shindong Ringbo.
But the Ringu Mari. The Masant in the go down to the.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Is it it's a big tree, but maybe it's also kind of a bush. So I'm not sure, but Khenpo is saying that it grows in gardens and next to people's front doors. And maybe it's similar to a rhododendron, sort of. Maybe that's what we're talking about. But the key characteristic here is whether it's tree or bush or whatever. It's maybe I can look it up later too, but it is a tree that has large leaves and large, beautiful flowers, and the flowers all fall off and like basically the same moment. They all fall down to the ground. Rose? Rose bush. Okay.
And it Dela Metok Nasharia Yorism Sun Mandawanga Lotapa Georgia in the Sharis.
So lo check le sonja mandawanga.
Metok
Metokanga.
Mandawanga.
Lo check.
Lo reaching to that.
Lo reach.
Singdong Koran Metok.
Dalo karbo lo jimar mar.
Yena Dela Chunga Yoris. Metokna.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
Also not sure I'm understanding, but it blooms in 5 different colors, and I guess it changes colors each year.
근데 저나 건가트론 조건 남터나나 나츠고 뭐 감바 로 첨부 대주나나 미키 우스 대존 통용 그 요래스니 든지 힘죽지니 티샤.
The Shingdong
Shingdong de method.
So Kunga Drubcho writes in his account of Rongsom and Rongsom's daughter, he says that he has met elders who actually saw that tree or bush, who saw that, who saw the flowers.
Oh yeah. Teni tanga so yang dinang ni de zementeni tanga yes. Sholenga ba.
Now we'll continue on page 5.
Jiban nanjur chimbo nangbi tawa yendes. Achana ba boyik shinke yenna de nanjur chimbo tang nga sanga de nangba se wan de so ngamu ge nyang bi na pe chatang ka chik de
La.
lo tong chak ngung ku teb nyang ba na ge ge zhen nan de li ma bo po yik zhe ge ya
No, Dzogchen.
pe na na chi sang ji xi ge song na
So now we come to the fourth position. It says the fourth example corresponds to the view of the inner Mahayoga. And so for those of you who read Tibetan, you might have noticed that it's a kind of archaic language. You know, Rongzom's language really recalls the writings of the words and the way he uses them like about 1,000 years ago.
kunni nyomo be chu tamchi se ta kunni nyomo be chu tamche bo jama ta wo chirrik bi se ta pe mo ba shukchi bo chak ba chi cher se ga ji wa nga bo yi ga la chi chirrik ba ba teng sa bu tok song jim zeng ge deni njok ba chi ta te ge zhum ji de ngon de jor ku yo res pe na tang bo zhi de ta nguni ge zum ma ri ta no ka je ge ma ri sam ba te jacha ja ha ko dang di khorang lam sang te ga rang la kang ba ga do ji je ya do o ten ri nang yin ji ge ta khorang be ngam tak go ni par te la ta ngam tak se ne ma ri de kang ta ha be njok ba ji ni de ji ge res
So the inner Mahayoga here, being increasingly aware that all polluting factors of existence are like an illusion, adepts, and so again, particularly we're talking about the reflection of the snake. Adepts undertake miraculous forms of tantric conduct in order to swiftly make possible, or you could say swiftly implement, the view of equality in a manner akin to trampling on the illusory snake by means of ascetic practice, so as to quickly dispel even the mere fear of the snake's reflection. So here, here being increasingly aware, being, in other words, being greatly aware that all polluting factors of existence are like an illusion. So they're fully aware that this is like an illusion. And yet, they also want to swiftly implement this view of equality. So they want a quick result. They want immediate result. So when they determine that there is no real snake, they want to deal with the situation right away. And so it's sort of like they just go and step on it.
Nyambi tawa lis rongor jawi shur se teni mat chongwi chopa tang de lende se on de teni chopa ngak ko torshu ko chopa de nyamlen je go na tangbo tawa de yak bo to gor mar to teni yo mar je tang nyambi tawa de lis rongor jawi shur de mat chongwi chopa tang de len kre se to ta chu song ri ki nyamlen.
Okay, so if we look at this line, in order to swiftly actualize or implement the view of equality, and undertake miraculous forms of tantric conduct. So here we see that if you want to engage in tantric asceticism, then you need to start with the proper view. So it's through actualizing the view of equality, great equality, that then you are able to to embody tantric conduct. So we see here that the view and the conduct are unified, are connected. There's a connection. They're in close. There's a unity between view and conduct.
Yeah. Teni tande big donina. Driki zungnin la takpa tsamyang nirta sarwi hir. Ta drir yo mari tela. Tani Perna Don Dambriang yo mari, concept yo mari, this yo mari de Drji Zungin den Takpo Nangwa Zamsi yoreta. Ta de yang meba zo top yo ba haku yore. Meba zoya chitu deni drshuku joba. Nyamlin jekres.
So here it says, so as to quickly dispel even the mere fear of the snake's reflection. So again, they're totally convinced, totally clear that there is no snake. The snake does not exist ultimately. It does not exist conventionally. It certainly does not exist substantially. And yet, there could be, yet that, so does not exist substantially, but the reflection of the snake has a nominal existence. And so in order to get rid of that, then they perform, ascetic practices, tantric ascetic conduct.
Oh yeah. Tenda yinti ngatsu shib ke samlo tangna ngatsu ge don tambar tongba ni yena yang tarnit yori samba samlo de nguni ngatsu pe shukchimbo yori se jangatsu ngatsu uma jang charna yang de yori.
So we have an understanding that ultimately ultimate reality is emptiness, and yet we also have this strong habit of two extremes. Even after you have completed like a thorough study of Madhyamaka, it's so hard to shake that belief in two extremes.
Tani tarnit takba chamchik re samna yang takba la yang zamba chia yore se pena ngak chiwa yena takbar zamba te da chia yore ndi kapsi yena takba chamdun zamba te jeshong soni ndina lamdwa ganzub de takbi yobar zamba yang chir sabi se hajang nyonyong si marta meba chani tani nisan zamba tawa dang chishir jarni se hajang jarni deni irme bi samba te lever 2 ring the left haris.
So in this system, when belief in the nominal existence of conventional reality is mostly extinguished, so that awareness is largely freed of grasping for and believing in the view of truth as twofold. So again, here they are admitting a nominal existence, conventionally nominal existence to the reflection of the snake. And so that there is a grasping at that nominal existence, and so even that now has to be cut. The grasping to that nominal existence has to be cut. And so here it says the nominal existence. Here again he's translated what I would probably call it clinging. He's translated as belief, but so the clinging to the nominal existence of conventional reality, that is mostly extinguished. So we're cutting through that grasping or clinging at this almost all the way, so that awareness is largely freed of grasping for and believing in or clinging to the view of truth as twofold, the two extremes, the two truths. Then the thought of the inseparability of the two truths is attained to a medium degree. So now we're on level 2. We're in the medium level. So now we come to the fifth individual on page 6.
ngaba no dzogpa chimbo tawa yende tande dzogpa chimbore songyoris.
So here we come to the view of the great perfection, or Dzogchen.
Dzog sewate boig laina for cha changwa ga donda res. Tar chimba ga donda res. Daily tar chinda me pa daily par yar ji kannon yabya chönni me pa dindi ji ga chala lemna ni or dzogpa chimbo se.
So the first syllable of this dzog, which gets translated as perfection or sometimes as completion, in Tibetan this means so hard to translate this. So it means completely full. It means completely intact. All parts accounted for. It is complete, and then it's also perfect, it's consummate, it is, it has reached the end, it is perfect. So if you have something that cannot be made more complete, that cannot be added to or topped up, then you have great perfection.
Dzogpa chimbo go lecture go dachita oyana, lecture go na ati yoga la. Ati sewate shindu nanjor la kunwa. Hindu raptu tegata nartun jorwati hindu namchorse.
So in Sanskrit, the word for Dzogchen is ati yoga. Ati means extremely and very. So it's very yoga. It's extremely yoga.
It's a very good translation, I think. Very yoga. It's easy. Yeah, that's so. Very yoga carry cherry like.
So what does someone, from very yoga make of the snake?
Today we change Dzogchen's name, okay? Very yoga. Ndutar Juma tawo yina, pangwa tang, tragba tang, ngond zwa tawo, kunjang, ngupor shimba tawa li shongwar tokba yendis. That is.
So the fifth example corresponds to the view of the great perfection. In this case, there is the realization that if the snake is illusory, then all rejection, fear, and actual trampling derive from a view based on belief in real entities.
Dan dede sarahaba songda jikba jikjangres. Dripsing sarahaba song.
So this is actually matches perfectly the words of the great Mahasiddha's Saraha.
사라하바데 적재 침보고 난줄 바리데 적재 침보당 족바 침보가 또 살나 직바리.
So actually Sarahaba is known as a Siddha of Mahamudra, a practitioner of someone who realized Mahamudra. But once you have realized Mahamudra or Dzogchen, they are the same. After realization, they are the same.
베르나 근처 롱친람 좀데 Dzogchen 짱짱
So, for instance, there's Longchenpa, is constantly taught about Dzogchen, but in his writings, he's over and over again quotes Saraha. So he's also quoted frequently by Ju Mipam Rinpoche, and in the context of mind instructions or semtri, if you know that, the meditation and like one-on-one meditation instructions.
사라하비 또하테 저 참망이 롱톱뇨. 남진 논동고요.
So I've received the lung, the oral transmission for all of Saraha's dohas, his songs of realization, and I recite them.
이 톱사대야 까마까지가 라마 잡자 루기를 붙이 금든 타오래. 배 라마 자침보래.
zen
차차 루긴.
차차
루겐 간보게. 게보 is. 벌써 긴 간보. Drubgan.
And I received this from a Karma Kagyu teacher, a wonderful teacher named Dza Drubwang Rinpoche.
콩 어레 사라하바 가르송서 들기 슌바 짬기 숭이 장 남양 둥하를 마지기 깨퍼세 즉대래 다 초랑 그 셈거디 우볼 힘빈 좀 봐요 완델라 우볼 힘바 때다 숭어세나 되래 우볼 힘바건 좀바 들지위 들지 아시거라 봐 들그 슌바 들 코랑 총총으로 봐 들기 힘바 슌바 들기 슌바 잠식 요나야 둥을 마직 깨그레스 디시어나 우불 힘빈 좀바 지신도 총총식이 있나야 매바조 거리 송도와
So what Saraha said in a famous verse is that if you admit the material existence of even a drop of sesame oil, then you will have only suffering. So the idea is that, sesame seed is almost as small as it gets. And something even smaller than that is like the oil that's inside the seed, the tiny, something even tinier than the seed. So if you admit the existence of something even that tiny, you're setting yourself up only for suffering.
뭐야? 사자가 신바 기저가 나나요. 점바쇼나 따와면.
So in the Sakya tradition, they say that if you can vanquish grasping, then there is no more view. Rinpoche must have quoted this to you many times, I'm sure.
제정 규마다고 코랑 예나 되니 쪼리 니메 비세 때 같이 버려야 보이겠나 쪼르와 제 삼나야 가진듯지요 말이지 즉 주마 지조 삼나 주마 제사고 예요 말이지 때 이제 자들 그 강라야 로야 해요 언데 어디 되니 강야 મં곡 강야 맞으르지 어데 쪼라 가면 쪼르와 제사가 니메도 라
So he says that what is illusory provides no basis for making efforts. So, something that is illusory, there's absolutely no basis for making effort with regard to it. If something is illusory, there's no need to manufacture, to fabricate anything. Any effort that you do is going to be an activity of fabrication because fundamentally there's no basis for that. So that's why we talk about the fundamental effortlessness. So when there is no basis for any kind of effort, then there's no need to stop something. There's no need to block it. There's no need to cause it to cease. There's no need to search for, an opposite of blocking would be to search for it. And there's no locus for any kind of engagement with it at all.
뭐야? 대다위 값스다 규마다위 로 차드 챗바인데 세드던디 파스 차드 침바인으로 강다랑 찬토슈라 레바레스 나우인 찬인 메버르비시다 강라 조야가 나와가 찬니데 메바르비 아니 돈담당 건습기 데민 점바 참모디 이가요 말다 돈담버 요바 건습도 요바 지시 요바 딱부 요바 가양 메비 따와 탐치당 자리스 다데 변나가 저 고물로 들어서 따와 탐치 당 자리시 담비추는 돈즈 비 고담텔라 창살로 서와데 따와 탐치당 자라데 다데 렙차리스
거나 따와 탐치
빵위시 그봐 담비추는 돈즈다 고담텔라 창살로 서 여러분 뭐지 딱 봐서요.
Okay, so then adepts neither reject anything nor try to achieve anything. In this system, the understanding of the illusion-like nature of phenomena reaches its full extent. So now we're at the highest level of understanding what an illusion might be. And then realizing that appearances have no defining characteristics, adepts are freed of even the most subtle beliefs in ultimate and conventional reality, and thus are liberated from all metaphysical views. So now we have released grasping at the all four modes of existence: ultimate, conventional, substantial, nominal. So all of these have been released. And we are... So we are liberated from all metaphysical views. And so here we reach, this is what is captured by a very famous verse by Nagarjuna, where he says, having abandoned all views, and then having to, and then holding on to the truth, I prostrate to the ultimate, the absolute.
When nga so tawa sewa te yakbu ji kui kironi, teni semla poba ji le ayore. So trona ji ga le ayore. Tik also so nangba yin samya te ji mixer ke trona le ayo sekres. Ngangum pe na jarar mbuchi ata par ngangum bol do jinang yin sambate pe poba ji ndu song do. Jimsun tawa din di ji ke thoni ro yo zang re.
So, learning about the view actually gives us an incredible boost of confidence, actually, and it makes us happy. It's it's a source of pleasure, maybe, and then you can feel actually a special source of pleasure in being a Buddhist. From this. So we can see, like, His Holiness the Dalai Lama frequently talks about the confidence that he gains and the delight that he gains from considering himself to be a follower of Nagarjuna.
Yinayang, kunzub demba de yoyo pari ta nga chola tata. Chetang tela tanyit tondam tang kunzub yirme per nyam tawa nyamba ni ji gongba si ming de la ta chokre si nyamba chimbu tawa lap kre so.
So, however, we are still in conventional truth, and so we use language, and so we call this convention in conventional terms. We call this the purport of basic equality and the view of the inseparability of the ultimate and conventional.
Chetang tawa de gazi tona, gazi goyona, gazi gajai mina de yaga yoris.
So really, the best view is the highest one, the one that is most resistant to objection and refutation.
Yinayang tawa diga ngatu tatong sem gutana yop diga ngupur himbi pakchak de tawa goha tanya de pangro mepate ngipur taku koris.
However, because of our habitual imprinting of grasping at the reality of appearances, then we're not able to, to let go of the view.
Bin terang dzokpa chimbo tokson se sanin tilmar tulong ma jonan ro yaga ro ji omar seta. Kaya samar gontong ma gora. Ratak na gi ta ratak e gogor wa da kaptu go par ji tindri ji jiktin kan la tu mi do chang ro yo maris.
So we don't see instances of people who realize Dzogchen today and tomorrow run around naked, like the deer, like wild animals. Like people are dependent on society, and we're dependent on other people, and so that's what we see.
Yeah. Ngomber nangwin sanyite tanga chu tawa tan la phamni sanyite mebar toksong res te kombatang boris.
So the first step is to realize the is to get rid of the clinging to the characteristics of appearances.
Yinna ngombar nawana parchak ji tobli chongwi nyurdo madoko sevate tanga so nyendare sete yang semasem gores. Tango inisres.
So the text continues, because directly perceived appearance has arisen due to the power of latent tendencies, it does not quickly disappear. It's not easy to overturn.
Tawagi ngombar nawin sanyin meber topi jila gombaga nawa korang meba soko yoriti ta kali jabyang gotsugaris. Gomnyam link gotsuga tenijes.
So when through the view we are able to understand the power, we are able to understand that appearances arise through latent tendencies or our habitual imprinting, then we use meditation to release the view. And so it's through once we have the view, then we start to meditate. That's the beginning of meditation and practice.
Okay.
Okay, so please ask your questions. I guess the microphone will come to you.
But it does say Shen show that. Hakomason. That number didn't go to
Thank you. I have a question that's based on a distinction between the words illusion and hallucination. And, for me, an illusion would be something that's a misperception of something real. Like, I think the classic description is seeing a rope at dusk and thinking it's a snake. So that would be an illusion, but a hallucination is something that you perceive that has no meaning, has no real existence. So, for example, someone who's drinking too much might see a snake as a hallucination. But there never was a snake, there never will be a snake. It's all internally generated. And the text just uses the word illusion. But at the point where you get to Dzogchen, it almost seems like it's really talking about a hallucination. And I just wonder if that's using those two terms, or thinking of those two terms might be helpful. Also, I don't particularly feel very comfortable seeing things as hallucinations. So I wonder if you might mention or talk about that.
The Juma said the indicator illusion, like the Juma said the pecha dinana some Juma mambo yongdo, Juma tanidi. Yeniang samlo tana diang Juma rea miktu ribes. Hortis in a Juma sana perna check sen chadro kapsu takpa check tong na drew in but source. Did Juma res? Yeniang check the miktu the lab chogi mimishe and the miktu the perna chara mambo tongna the check meba la check tongido perna drew yoba sorgido yeni drew ge when check shimeke check nawan ridos. So Dzogchen kapsu Juma say the miktu ribes the check ni harange check nawa the so bide shimeba re lab gona des debo mendos.
Peya Boris. Teni Juma de Lagjar Kanaka Maya Sirviti Tarniti Tani Yoku Yoris. That Juma Sirnapinangasu Parcher Minchur Rao. Deris. Jata Jumi Pe Jet se Pe Jayore. Rawon Raworis. Nadun Kangtoni Yana Melam Zunin Mayor Tresi Tongcher Yana Yang Kap de la Maya Seva Teres. Chick. Tani Nawan de la Je Yona Mena Dewmandu Lavate. This some Karampe Yakore.
Okay, so I don't know that like for instance, how to translate hallucination. I did my best, but so the word, the Tibetan word gyuma, illusion, that's being translated illusion in this text is in Sanskrit. This is Maya, and there are 8 different metaphors given for Maya, like dream. Like a mirage. There's these 8 different famous metaphors for Maya or illusions. So the word that I use to translate hallucination would count as a type of Maya. So again, maybe it's a translation problem, but hopefully this is helping. Now, in terms of the second question about, is there actually a basis for perceptions, for appearances? Is there actually some kind of existent basis behind appearances? That is an excellent thought to have, to say that you're not comfortable perceiving hallucinations. That's actually an excellent thought to be thinking.
Chitangi dorji chopa ga na dorji chopa de tuni matang kan desu karwa mabola tsoksak pe jimsen ri songdo wa de ngui ni sri sa de tongni ka ta teng sa po sang lo tang ni ji de ta rang da ai na sam lo tang de de wo men du ga sam ya desu de za tokpa hyug ni sam lo tang ga ngu tsuk da ris 제 장 따심라 대용하게 치더니 라마라 서로와 따위야 만드르피야 멘트니 더니 의미종라 장한테 땅군벌로 들라 그 종라 따야 돼서 제거레스.
So
아니 니마지가 란지 라크리스 소소.
So we can see, for instance, in the Diamond Sutra, that being able to hear the teachings of emptiness is the result of many lifetimes of accumulation of merit. So it's not an easy thing even to hear about the teachings of emptiness. But then once you've heard about them, and then you're contemplating them and you're thinking, is this really how it goes? And I don't feel... I don't feel comfortable with this. Something doesn't feel right. You have that process of contemplating emptiness. That's a sign that you've started finally thinking about it. And so from there, then you continue to study Madhyamaka scriptures, to, offer a mandala to your guru, to, pray for the blessings to understand this, to study andGarchena's teachings and so forth. And if you just persevere, one day you get your answer.
아리안 대화가 소는 멘큰 대초고 동반일라 대초미야 깨가 말이지. 대초 깨큰 대초 드니 스파 실부 히버졌죠. 코로나 된 파처를 다 촐락으로 하겠다. 고츠게 하리슬람도.
So Aryadeva said that actually people without merit don't even doubt emptiness. So having a doubt about emptiness is actually, Aryadeva continued to say, that's when you start to shake the foundation of the world. So you having a doubt about emptiness is a sign that you are starting to tear down the whole, edifice.
Next.
Okay, so I just want to apologize beforehand because there's a lot that I think is going to go into this question, and I want to apologize to both teacher and translator because there's a lot here. And so I want to ask about primarily, so I've read more in a commentary about his text establishing appearances as divine. Mm-hmm. And this is actually coming from more of like a maybe hair-splitting academic perspective. And it talks about how Jetsun Ronson talks about, I guess it's maybe like how he has like a critique, a lot of critique of Madhyamaka that seems like contradictory, because on one hand, there's a lot of usage of Madhyamaka, And then on the other hand, there's a lot of critique of Madhyamaka and Rongzom's work. And some of these examples, like, for example, it's mainly a critique about the Madhyamaka's use of like a relative or authentic and inauthentic, almost kind of like the two truths based on the absence or the presence of causal efficacy, which it gives like two Tibetan terms, Donyed Nupa, Donyed Nuspa, and or the Sanskrit term Artha Kriya Samartha. And in entering the way of the great vehicle, he argues that both a vase and its reflection are equally able to perform a function. According to Rongzom, one must therefore accept the division of relative into authentic and false aspects based on efficacy as mistaken. He continues the notion of functional things can be disproved even on the relative level, and even says that like Madhyamaka's view like defeats itself, like their Rangla Nudpa, because their presentation is inherently contradictory. And he argues that they fail to see these flaws because they're attached to their own philosophy. He targets...
Please, can you short a little bit?
Yeah, so I guess basically the main question is that there's like really a lot here, and I'm sorry, this is why I was apologizing beforehand. Can maybe more be said, I guess, about this critique? And if I think I'm mainly concerned I'm missing the point. Like, you know, is it really about the two truths? Is it about causal efficacy? Like, what is he criticizing?
No.
Thank you, sorry.
Dambo ne gonda shus. Khenpo na gonda tin Dzogchen Rinpoche chik gonyo podos. Yini nama hladrup dang tekchen sujuk nana nika nana Rongzom ge uma korla kecha mambo lepkido. Uma layang gakpa mambo japkidos. Tadi gakpa jap goya jinsen de kartires de dun che nu dang menus dawa kecha check yorde check de reverse. Then yang tekchen sujuk nana inside de uma tawa de rang na nergi yorde. So it's so gakpa japkiwa nange dawa insamarlive.
I know.
Yeah, so tagantarti dun che nu minus kecha ge chimboria demba ni ngu sintang ti nenga tiria da nenga karires uma la gakwa jab yang gakwa jab goya de karires.
Chwa pe yakon do si chapar the tection sunju ta nawa la drup ko long tang ni chwa chya de yang pe gasons. Jetang chwa ranson samson de na ta gasons.
So it's an excellent question, and I'm so happy to have someone quoting from Rongzom's other writings to ask a question. Thank you so much.
Yena yang Rongzom pa ge chetang ke gakpa shita jap ko mari si chang hiop ke ta da Rongzom te gakpa nyong jam ke nyong shu jam ke res. Chumta ogma te so la gakpa jak mars.
So, however, actually, Rongzom, and maybe this was my misspeaking as the translator, but actually Rongzom doesn't critique Madhyamaka to a great extent. In fact, he leaves the lower tenet systems kind of alone.
Perna nyan tu ni zong te roa. Ran sang ji tang te ni oma dang sem tam la sok ba ka tok ta wa ga nang ni ta tong cha ma changwa din de re lap kre mar to ko kyu dig me du chita lap ka mare te lap tang mixer hiyo yore.
So actually the way he phrases things is really quite interesting, because he doesn't say, oh, here are the faults of, the Shravaka position, Pratyekabuddha position, Madhyamaka position, Yogacara position. He doesn't say these are the faults. He just points out like what's missing. So he doesn't say you're wrong. He just says you're missing this.
Che zang perna omi tawa ga nang ni ton dambar me par tok pa kunzup te diang jis me par tok pa den rigdore. Yena takpar yop deni gen zamba chi gore. Deni demba ni si won zamba de o tin zamba din reke ma lap kare.
So, for instance, when he talks about the Madhyamaka here, and he says that, Madhyamaka,
공고 남지 내니 소설 힘비 차 송근와 어때요?
so he says that, that the Madhyamaka position accepts, and refutes, or denies the ultimate existence, but also holds that there is, and also denies a substantial existence conventionally. He's not, but his point is really that that's fine, that position is fine, but you're still grasping at two truths. So you still have a duality. You still have a grasping at a duality there. That's the problem.
Yeah. Next one.
But can I ask a question?
Oh.
Not duality.
Oh, let's.
Okay. Is the Dza Tsering Tashi me kashi the Juatangste. Da Umasena Drupta Oma Kanditsig. Natsu Namjo Umape Tombo Drawzig. That did Naginana Angnipa de Levy or Tita. The Koreanas.
대배야버려. 대 가리리스나 나가나니 안 이바레데 탁바 공군이 나니 공마리. 어때 당부 슬라다. 저 저와다 니가 저샤.
택마 옹마기 나는 공마.
말 탁바 니기 나니 공마리 탁바 침보랑래.
택바 침보. Yeah, so I just, I've had several, Megan, the translator, had several conversations on the tea break about, seems like almost an unfair critique of Madhyamaka, like we're not quite expecting it. And so I think there's often we're used to thinking of Madhyamaka as a very high level view, and here it's only number 2 of 5, So Khenpo said, well, yes, but it is, it's the lowest view of the Mahayana. So it's a Mahayana view. So it's, it's part of the higher vehicle, but it is the lowest view of the higher vehicle.
Pena 납친 상지 시가 송나라 요리. Pena umi ta와데 너 파르드 침비 tawa가 쩨모데 umi ta와리. 상역 dorji 탁비 tawa가 쩨모데 다 작지 침보 당 족바 침보리. 제처럼 네 나라 창만 냠듯이 용도 코랑진 그 오라 랩트 거봐.
So in the work of Nupchen Sangye Yeshe, another early master, he writes that Madhyamaka is the culmination of the vehicle of the sutra paramita vehicle, the sutra perfections lead to realization of Madhyamaka, whereas the culmination of secret mantra practice is realizing Mahamudra and Dzogchen. So what's happening here is that Rongzom is including all of these together, because all of these are accounted for in this text, then Madhyamaka falls to the bottom.
Yenaya, ndongak nigala tawala chapra mes, losong kenya yores. Yena ta 닝마리 다 갈주지 등아주 남지 샤바이나 동행라 따위 잡으러 여바로 차로 요레스 된다 인디야 디차니야 키파소스 송타 만다와 요레야 자랑서 힘직지나 약슈리스 되게 요레스.
So, on the other hand, Rongzom also accepts that there's no difference in the view of Sutra and Tantra. So that's kind of unusual in that normally Nyingma and Kagyu position is that there is a distinction in the views of Sutra and Tantra. So every scholar has their own, specific position here. And I really recommend all of you look into this. Anyone interested, look into it more.
전이 너 니갈라 따와가 차퍼 요레웨 랍디 전이 베나 장군 공주를 뭐지 시작 근접가 나라야 자그 기파 망보 송탕 요레 망보 찍어야 따위 차퍼 땅 라속바고니 따와고니 차퍼 요바데 무슨 송 요레스 제전 그 랑징 오마데 데니드리스.
So then if you're interested too in the differences of views, Jamgon Kongtro in his
시간조.
in his treasury of nobles, treasury of knowledge, maybe, talks about he quotes many great masters, India, and so forth, about the question of the difference in the viewpoints of Sutra and Tantra. So that's a good place to look.
Next question. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, one question.
Last question. Yeah, so we're almost out of time.
Sorry.
I'll ask a quick one. Thank you, Rinpoche. The question is, we seem to have covered 8 of the vehicles. I'm just wondering where the Anuyoga falls into this. And last part, this is not a question, but I'm just wondering if you could give a request a transmission of a Saraha Doha at some point. Thank you.
The rongsunga the tawa mandrawanga kikecha yonggido yani takpa gug nana ye nga tongios ngojin yos the Anuyoga takpa di kardos de dues tangdues check and niwa di Saraha gi Doha gi di lung nangro checks di gokap jungnas.
Saraba Doha Lonta Lama Yakpo Datendashina chance. Oh yeah, teni Anuyoga Tatsu Dikaps Tendi Takbaramba Gugun Rudan Tunni Sonko Meza Mixer Ginderi Lapwena Nangbaga Nala Maha Anunika Yores. And the Dzogchen Loxia di Maha Anunika Nangbaga Nala Yores.
The Najur Chimbo.
Yeah. Najir Chimbo Namba.
So for the lung, you do better to ask a really excellent lama for the lung. Then as for the Anuyoga, I would say that yes, it's not the 9 vehicles are not explicitly mentioned in this text because of the kind of purview of the text. It's a little bit beyond what he's trying to accomplish, what he's trying to address. But in the Anuyoga falls within the 4th position of the inner tantras. So it's, you can fold it in there.
Yeah. Congressna Mahayoga ta Anuyogi chaparte chite Kirim Tsarta Tombata, Zorum Tsarta Tombali, Nika Lame Bachiparis.
So for Mahayoga and Anuyoga, they're both, focused on creation stage. One emphasizes creation stage, one emphasizes completion stage, but they both, belong to unsurpassed Tantra, the unsurpassed vehicle. So.
Page 17.
Page 17 in the Yellow Book. Just as the hero Manjushri realized things as they are, so too did Samattabhadra. I will follow in their path by perfectly dedicating all these virtues.
Long life.
Page 20, the Long Life Prayers. For this realm, encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness without exception. Tenzin Gyatso, Lord Chenresig, may your life remain steadfast until the end of samsara. Embodiment of the 3 jewels, great being who upholds and increases the teachings of the Shakya lion, you perfectly guide others with your excellent deeds. May you, the precious guru who accomplishes everything, spontaneously live long. Holder of the teachings of Lord Drikung Kagyu, great sovereign of the 3 jewels, through the power of your peerless compassion and the holy Dharma's peaceful light, you bring relief to beings. May your life be long. Known in the noble land as Aryadeva, you emanated into the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Chudingpa, the heart son of Jigten Gompo. May the life of the glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 aeons. 26. May the teachings of the great Drikung Ratnashri, Master of Interdependence, omniscient Lord of Dharma, who has seen all knowable things, be upheld through the teachings and practice, through hearing, reflecting, and meditating, until the end of existence. Your 1,000 arms are 1,000 wheel-turning kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate aeon. Your love is boundless like space. I supplicate to the Bodhisattva Chenresig. May I swiftly accomplish Chenresig through this virtue and bring, without exception, all beings to that state.